listening to a Directors Talk interview with me, Giles Arber, and Donald McGarva, the Group CEO at Amino Technologies. Donald, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, Donald, you issued a trading update earlier in which you talk about a transformation to a software-led business. How has this helped you during this COVID-19 period?
Yeah, well, I mean, we did go through this transformation, some time ago, and we did do an acquisition, sort of middle of last year, and I think just that change over to more software business, more recurring revenues, has certainly proved that has made us much more resilient through this COVID-19 period. We are pleased to report that over a quarter of our revenues now related to software and services. We saw on our revenue, there's a 10% increase year over year, and that's all come from our software and the services. It means that whilst a lot of our customers have just carried on as usual, and we've had very sort of repeatable revenue in software, we've also seen an uptick in some of the online services, and that's meant that obviously we saw, an uptick in our operations and the customers requiring more from us to deliver that. I mean, examples are people like Broadway HD, who deliver Broadway and West End productions in a Netflix type service, and that's become, the most effective way to get access to that content. So we've seen a really good uptick there responded to. And even in our device business, we deployed and offered to customers, in many cases free of charge initially. We've offered our SaaS-based Engage platform, and that allows them to remotely access, manage, and support and analyze, devices in people's homes, and avoid the need for an unnecessary home visit from an engineer, particularly in COVID-19 when you don't want people coming to your home.
Of course. Brilliant. Okay. What challenges have you seen in the supply chain in H1? And I guess if you're having them, how are you overcoming them?
Yeah. Well, obviously the initial, a part of our business is our devices. With China going into lockdown itself in February and March, this had a real impact on our supply chain. So that meant that actually there was no output coming out of China for at least 6 weeks, and then when it did come back, it was slower to return to normal than anybody else would have expected. Again, we responded pretty positively to that. Our suppliers and our partners there were one of the first to come back, and we managed to get that supply chain moving again. Now that has meant that there was a lot of catching up to be done in April and in May in the last part of the month. So that had a small impact in our cash flow or our working capital, because we probably used a little bit more than we normally would have done. We still had a very good cash balance, net cash, at the end of the period. But that was the initial impact. We then saw some knock-on impacts there that, as Taiwan, South Korea, Malaysia then had lockdown issues that impacted other components. And we've seen, component lead times move from 15 or 16 weeks up to 23 weeks in some cases. But I'm pleased to say we actually have been able to anticipate some of that, and we've managed that very effectively. So I'm really pleased with how our team are doing, responding to that, compared to many others that are out in the marketplace. And some of those knock-on effects will continue, but again, we're pretty resilient there, and we are anticipating some of that and making sure we manage through that effectively.
Brilliant. Yeah, I was just going to say, how do you see the second half of the year panning out?
Well, we've been quite clear. Clearly there's an awful lot of uncertainty in the marketplace, and we don't have a crystal ball. What I would say is our pipeline, our order book, and etc. is strong, and we see that, and we've got good visibility. However, one of the things, and we are winning new business and bringing new clients on board, but we are starting to hear clients start to defer a little bit some of the implementation schedules. So they'd say they'd rather wait until they're out of lockdown in some geographies or till they're into the next phase. So I think overall, it is actually, it's a very uncertain period. I don't think any of us have got any, really know how the economic impact is going to affect us, in the remainder of the year. But I think, really importantly is if you look at the medium to long-term dynamics that this has created, it all bodes well for us, particularly where we're in the traditional pay TV and streaming and that convergence. So we think the underlying strength of the business model and the strategy we put in place, bodes well for the medium and the long-term future going forward.
Wonderful. Okay. Talking to us today was Donald McGarva, Group CEO at Amino Technologies. Donald, thanks for joining Directors Talk today.
Thank you, and keep well and healthy, please.
You too.